I don't know if you understand how the NFL and college football schedule work, but yes, it is that time for mock projections all the way around. We're going to talk about which dogs are projected in the first rounds, which ones could do well. And oh, yeah, it's always off season. So there's always news around college football next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, by Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. More on them in a moment. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Stick around for the loyal third segment listeners. Got something special for you. As we always do, it gets off the rails a little bit in the third segment. So listen all the way. You're the 199. We love you guys. If Daniel was here, he'd be telling you the same thing. We do this podcast for you guys. It's a blast to be here. All right. Let's get to it. We're talking about mock projections on drafts. We're going to talk about a couple of dogs that are in the first round. We're going to talk about how they got there, where the fit is, and then we're going to talk about later on down the road what dogs should be considered in the top of that echelon. The next thing we're going to talk about is the college football landscape has shifted. We're going to talk about the implications for that as some rumors, and it pertains to the mock draft, and it pertains to the NFL, it pertains to the Chargers. We're going to talk about what changes are ahead for the Bulldogs, the SEC, things of that nature. And then lastly, like I said, the 199, we're going to talk about, I don't know how Kirby Smart is still being Kirby Smart and lethal out there, and why it's important, and why other colleges aren't doing this, but Kirby is, and it's important for you. But let's start here. Let's start with the mock drafts that we're seeing. 3 dogs in the top first round of the NFL draft. They are as follows on many, many accounts. I'm just doing an aggregate of the system. I'm going to talk about where they might fall, where they've been projected highest and projected lowest. So here are the 3 names. There are 3 names that in the aggregate across the spectrum, people are saying, no, these dogs are getting in. These dogs are getting that first round money. They're getting that first round paycheck. They're going to be there day one. Teams of need, teams that need them. And let's start with the best tight end college football has ever seen. Period. The case is closed. The case is over. He is the best tight end that we've ever seen at the collegiate level. Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is rumored to be in the top 5. He is not going to go in the top 5, I don't believe, for a couple of reasons. It's not because of skill. It's not because of anything else. It's because of 2 factors. One factor, QBs. There will be a plethora of teams, just like we saw last year, with people trading out and up and in all over the board to try to get the best quarterbacks. There are 2 quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, Drake May. Those are the 2 quarterbacks that are bona fide people all across the board saying we'll get in to the top 5 no matter what. So that's point 1. Okay, that's top 2. You got to trade up. You got to get them. You got to pick them. Well, what if Penix is still there? Is there another hungry team that's going to make an offer? We know the Bears aren't going to draft Bowers. They have needs, so many needs. They're going to take a wide receiver, and when they take a wide receiver, it's going to be Marvin Harrison. It's going to be the wrong choice because Rome over in Washington, he better than Marvin Harrison. I don't care. I got eyeballs. So the Bears aren't going to go quarterback. I think they're going to keep their pick. 2 quarterbacks are going to be selected after that because I think people are going to trade. And all of a sudden you're up at 4 and 5, and I think somebody else gets up there for Penix or another quarterback they really like because you have to take them at that point. Or all of a sudden you start talking offensive tackle, cornerback, edge. These are the positions that people take. Brock Bowers will not be in the top 5. He should be in the top 5. He is the best player regardless of position in the draft. Hear me say that again. He is the best player regardless of position. So yes, Drake May, yes, Caleb Williams, they're going to get that bump because they're quarterback. Penix is going to get even a bump before what he could do. If any indication of that championship, the national championship game was any indication, it's not going to be good. He had a great season in the Pac-12. He had a great season in the playoff game, but against Michigan, it was not beautiful at any means. All right. So regardless of position, though, Brock Bowers is in fact the dude. Now, I saw one mock draft put him to the Chargers at 5. And here's why that is absolutely never going to happen. One, news is tonight that Jim Harbaugh is finalizing a deal to become the next head coach of the San Diego Chargers. Now, it doesn't matter to you and me, whatever. NFL, go have your thing. Jim Harbaugh leaves and shambles the Michigan program. It's bad. Like that's awful and horrible for all the Michiganders. You know, it's not great. However, he's gone. He's leaving. He's going to go to the NFL. He's going to get paid. He's going to leave him in the wake. And Jim Harbaugh is not the guy that's going to draft a tight end. Like, there's no way he drafts a tight end. And if he drafts a tight end, it's going to be Jason Witten type tight end, who's a good tight end. Like, again, Hall of Fame guy. But he's not Brock Bowers tight end. He's going to draft an offensive guard, an offensive tackle. He's going to draft Corum. He's the dude that said J.J. McCarthy was the best quarterback ever to play college football. See what I'm saying here? Jim Harbaugh has a type of player, and it is not Brock Bowers. I'm here to tell you, it's not him. Now, if you remember, Jim Harbaugh was coaching on the Niners, and Niners had Vernon Davis at one point, but that wasn't his draft to go get. And if you don't know who Vernon Davis is, tight end out of Maryland, freakish athlete. He's not going to get him. He wasn't part of that draft. He wasn't part of that understanding. He was the guy that he likes to go up and down the board, and he likes to get value, and he likes to trade back, and he likes to be the guy that finds gems out of nothing. He doesn't like the guy that sees instant starter, instant all impact, and says, let's just put him in the roster, plug and play, let's go. No. He's the guy that looks for diamonds in the rough. It's not going to be the Chargers. I think he's going to maybe last till 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that category. And if I had to bet, I think edge, offensive tackle, and cornerback outside of the quarterbacks, plus the wide receivers, are going to go before Brock. So don't be shocked if Brock is outside the top 5. I think 10, 9, 10, somewhere in that range is what I would take. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to talk about 2 other guys before we get to the other news, 2 other dogs that are on the radar for us to consider in this upcoming draft. But first, these. And these are, in fact, FanDuel, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more over at FanDuel.com. FanDuel is a fantastic sports book. They are the official partners of Locked On Bulldogs and Locked On Podcasts everywhere. They have everything you need. They got a parlay hub. They got same-day parlays. They got in-game live action, over-unders, futures. FanDuel is where you need to go. It's where Daniel, my co-host, and I, we go. We trust. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook. And right now, you put Locked On in the promo code, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets for every $5. You place $5 bet, you get $150 in bonus bets from FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more. All right, let's talk about the other 2. Projected. Which we all know about projections, by the way. Can we just stop for a minute and talk about projections? Projections mean nothing. So this is just people who aren't good enough to be on NFL teams thinking what NFL teams who don't do good things GM-wise in the draft are going to go ahead. If you went through the draft and you took the value associated, they do it every single year. Like they regrade, 4 years ago draft. It's a hot mess. I mean, you get maybe 1, 2, 3 guys who actually hit where they're taken, where they're supposed to go. The top guys fall, the bottom guys come. It's just a madhouse, crazy. And I think because, again, a lot of GMs try to outsmart themselves. They overthink things. They overcomplicate things. So it's really, really wild. Okay. Here is what I want to go to next. I want to go to the other 2 projected by people who don't have NFL jobs to read the minds of NFL employees. And that is Kamar Lassiter is the next dog off the board. Now, I think Kamar Lassiter is a true lockdown corner. He's got the speed. He's got the size. I think the combine is really going to help him. I think scouts are going to be able to talk to him, see his skills, see his ability. It's going to be quite incredible what Kamar Lassiter is going to be able to showcase to the world at that combine. I think length and speed and size are his favor. I think that combo is going to rest well for him. Measurables, not just the measurables on the clock, not just the measurables on that, but I think the measurables as it pertains to literally how tall are you? What's your wingspan? What is your weight? All of those Kamari Lassiter is going to have very well. He fits a good size and fit of an NFL cornerback that is, in fact, a lockdown, that can play man or zone, can go across all schemes. He's not a Richard Sherman that's really good in man off the line for 15 yards. He's not a zone guy that's going to float back. He's not going to do that. He's going to be able to fit most NFL defenses. I think he's a plug and play nickel, corner, starter. A couple of guys got him to the Steelers. I don't see that happening. It's in the 20s. I think maybe he could go a little bit for that because I think there's going to be a run on cornerbacks. From what I'm reading and what I'm understanding, there is just going to be a push of cornerbacks. I think a couple of them go early in the top 10. And I think after that, we saw this last year with the Seahawks. Seahawks took their cornerback pick early on, and it affected a lot of people. I think we're going to see the same thing. I think Kamari, maybe 18, 19, something like that, or sooner, which leads us to the last pick. Now, this pick in the first round, I should say. This pick is Amarius Mims. Now, here's why Amarius Mims is fascinating to me as a prospect. Size, check. That is a big hoss. He has the NFL size. Does he have the NFL skill? Yeah, check. He doesn't give up pressures. He doesn't give up quarterback hits. He doesn't give up sacks. Can he run block? Check. Can he pass block? Check. He is yet another one in the link of the chain of incredible tackles coming out of Georgia. He's just fantastic. So I think that is really wild and really great to see him in the first round. Consider where we were a couple of years ago with Amarius Mims. Just think about that for a hot minute. Just for a hot minute, think. Amarius Mims was in the portal, down checking out other schools, and he said, no, the grass is not always green on the other side, comes back out and makes this team what it was this year. And he was part of great talented teams and championship teams. Amarius Mims, really, 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 really productive right tackle. And I think he can play left tackle. I think he's going to be more naturally positioned for the right side. But a team that needs to bona fide their offensive line is going to get it that can go right in. Now, a couple of mock drafts I've seen has him going to the Niners at the end of the first round. I think this is another opportunity. Kamari Lassiter might get hit on a run, but I think a team is going to pick Mims to either trade back because they think they can get value for him, so he can go anywhere between 17 all the way back to 30, something like that. I think teams are going to identify him, want him, maybe trade back for value if they have a need on the offensive line, not have to premium, get a couple of picks, and then take him later on. I think maybe 25, 24, 25, 26 in that range is where I'd anticipate Mims. And if he falls to 29, 30, you're getting one heck of a value on that. Just one ginormous value. All right, now let's talk about a couple of dogs that I haven't mentioned so far that I don't know if they're going to get in the first round. Now we have a whole bunch of guys going to the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. It's going to be quite the show of dogs down there. Bullard is I mean, if I had my favorite draft choice from this draft, Bullard might be it. I've answered a couple different ways, a couple different times, but I think Bullard might be it because he plays a premium position. He can hit, he can run, he can cover, he can play safety, he can play in the box. He takes care of the alley. It's another Christopher Smith. In the league, doing his part. I think he is that type of player, but maybe even a little bit better ceiling-wise, having that high. So Bullard, he's not going to go in the first round. But, man, I think second-round value for that is going to be quite crazy. I really, really do. And if Daniel was here, my co-host, he would say, Kendall Milton's not going in the first round, and you don't draft running backs in the first round anymore. Oh, unless you're the Falcons. And then you draft a running back when you don't need one ahead of other guys that you could have had that could have really helped your team. And then you could have sat that pick later on in the year because you're the Falcons. Why are you Falcons fans, y'all? You don't take a running back in the first round, but I think Kendall Milton is going to be somebody that's going to have absolute impact. We've seen it with James Cook. We've seen it with Zeus. These guys come and have impact. I think Kendall Milton is going to be just in the line of that. He's going to have an incredible impact on some team. And they're getting a huge value for that cat, probably in the late second, third round, which he needs to go higher than that because of the value that he's going to bring to a team. But Sadly, that won't take place. A couple other dogs that we're looking at. We got the big hitters, we got the big names. But if you want to look at where the dogs are probably going to have some great value, it's going to be, again, Tyke Smith, probably the Bullard. That's going to be an incredible value because Tyke, I think, can play really well in a couple different spots. The Senior Bowl in Mobile is really going to accentuate a lot of these dogs for us. I think they're going to sneak back in. I think they're going to come up third round is where I'm looking at a bunch of dogs to come jumping off the board in quick succession, other than the top 3 that are there. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to talk about the landscape of college football having some shockwaves. We're going to talk about that right after these. All right, let's talk about shocking landscape of college football. It is rumored Jim Harbaugh is off to greener pastures in San Diego. If that's the case, Michigan head coaching job opens up. I don't know if Michigan's going to do this. I have no idea. Okay, so this is not me with any inside information, because do you know what we think about insiders? They don't exist. It is your best guess. It is our best guess what is happening. They can talk about the check that was given to a real estate agent for coffee that she's going to reimburse on a tax return. No one knows. Just stop it. Just stop it. But it would be fascinating if Michigan hired from within. They have a number of coaches that are well respected in circles. It would kind of fit for what's going to come down the pipeline of these violations. Like you just tell me, this is the ripple effect. You just tell me which college football head coach the carousel has already clicked over, right? Saban retires, and then all of a sudden the dominoes hit everywhere. Which, by the way, how crazy is that Saban is retired and we're already talking about Jim Harbaugh taking the Chargers position and not talking about Alabama football? It's insane. News hits fast. But if you're a head coach in America somewhere, okay, and you're thinking, oh, Michigan job, that's going to be a good one. They got facilities, they got tradition, they got pride, they got a rabid fan base that's only going to get louder, because when they vacate that championship, it's only going to solidify them more. But if you're a coach in college football, what are you doing? Like, truly, what are you doing if you say to yourself, yeah, I want the Michigan job, knowing there's sanctions and violations coming, knowing that there might be less scholarships, a bowl ban, a couple of years, wins vacated, a shroud of mystery surrounding the program of how we're going to do, recruits not knowing. I mean, it's a great school, so you're going to be able to get kids to come because you can sell them on their future. It's got great tradition. It's got a long-standing fan base and a whole national market. I get all of that. But who's going to come coach? No assistant is going to jump out of where they are in their position, in their reality, to go somewhere else. No one's going to do that. That's not a thing. Because why go to an unknown commodity that may be stricken down when you have something? You could wait a couple of years and see something else. I just don't see any good assistants jumping for that. I think they're going to hire from within. And that has repercussions, because Jim goes to San Diego. We all know what's going to happen. All of a sudden it opens up, just like we saw Ohio State feast off Alabama's roster. We're going to see SEC schools feast off of Michigan. Now, here's what's interesting to me. You name the teams that need to fill holes, and you need the teams. It's not going to be as many, I don't think, because Saban was the entire program down in Tuscaloosa. Jim Harbaugh is not the entire program at Michigan. He just got them the championship. So I think we're going to see a couple of guys at the portal. It's not going to be a mass exodus that it was out of Tuscaloosa. But there's still going to be some dudes. Okay, what if you can't go within conference? What if you don't want to go within conference? What if you have to go outside of conference? What if you don't have a Pac-12 to go to? What if you don't want to go to the Big Ten, because that's a joke? And the SEC is where you want to go. And all of a sudden, there's a couple of schools that still need some holes to fill. It's not Ole Miss. They filled them buckets already. They won the offseason with transfer portal. It's not Texas. They won and filled up their buckets as well. Georgia got a couple of guys in the portal, Travis Etienne, defensive line. We got some holes that are shored up. Alabama's going to need a bunch of dudes, but would you go from Michigan to Alabama? That seems weird. I don't know. Maybe you do. Georgia has a couple of spots they could play around with. They got a couple of guys that did not come in that were thought. So if we could make room for Caleb Downs, we could certainly make room for others. It's just an interesting roster that needs composition some places, and it's going to be wild to see. But Jim Harbaugh is rumored to be going to the Chargers. And if that's the case, Michigan will be screwed and Jim will see none of the repercussions. Tell me again why NIL haters and college calendar haters are so mad at the system, because it's unfair for certain people. Oh, it's unfair for the Jim Harbaughs of the world, right? He's going to get a clause that says he can't be fired for something. Now, which, by the way, really quick, just a quick side note. If I'm Jim Harbaugh and I can negotiate that you can't fire me for other things, like, don't yell at him for that. Because as we know, the NCAA, as much as we want to harp on Michigan, and it's a joke, I agree. Can we also say that NCAA is a joke itself? Like, both of them are clowns. Both of them are laughable. Can you foresee NCAA getting really nitpicky and really litigious and really mean and really nasty towards Michigan and coming down on them on things that they shouldn't have? I can, because they're a joke. Did Jim Harbaugh, is he a joke? Yes, of course. Two things are true at the same time. So just slow down on the hate of Jim Harbaugh for negotiating a way to not get fired if sanctions are given to Michigan because of something he did. That's just, man, that's called a market, and he is hitting the market. Like it or not, the dude can demand that because he took Michigan and won the national championship, and he has success in the NFL. The Niners went to the Super Bowl when they did not have the most talented roster compiled. Beat the Packers many times, got in the big game, lost to the Ravens. It's interesting. So Harbaugh and the landscape changes. Roster opens up. Georgia might be in the market for some more transfer guys. If Daniel was here, he would say goodbye to you, but I'll say goodbye for him. He is Daniel. I am Clint. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. We'll be back this week talking more Bulldogs. Can't wait. We'll see you guys then.